And so in the last Dhamma talk, we were discussing about this anatta lakkhana, the characteristic or the signs of anatta or non-self. So what is the signs? What is it about? The mental, physical nature in our experience that when we discern it, it tells us that they are non-self. Okay? So anatta lakkhana. So as we discuss, this anatta lakkhana explained as asarakatena anatta. Okay? So it is anatta in the sense of having no core or no essence. Okay? So this means that we see, the yogi sees that at the heart of our experience, there is no inner permanent core. There is no everlasting essence that remain unchanged from one moment of experience to another. Okay? So when the yogi discern that every moment when you observe this mental, physical nature, they arise only to disappear. Every single one of them, there's noted. You notice they arise and disappear. Another one arise and then disappear. Every moment of experience, they are just this momentary mental, physical nature. Nothing survive intact from one moment of experience to another. So at the center of our experience, at the heart of our experience, our existence, there is no permanent core, no everlasting essence, which is usually called the soul, the self, the Atman. So in the Buddha's teaching, they talk about this Attavada. Attavada means the belief in or the doctrine, theory of the self. So this is the belief in an unchanging, in the existence of an unchanging permanent essence or entity. So there's something in our experience. There's permanent, there's everlasting, that remain unchanged. Okay? There's an essence in our existence that is permanent. Okay? And this is usually identified as the self or the soul. Yeah. So the self itself is actually not real. It's non-existence. Okay? So people attached or cling on to this idea of a self. So this clinging to the idea of self is called atta vadupadana. The clinging, upadana, clinging to the idea of self. Okay? Or the view of a self, a doctrine of a self. Okay? We don't say clinging to a self, because the self does not exist. It does not exist. What do you cling on to? Right? Yeah. So what you cling on to is the idea of the self, the view of the self, the doctrine of the self. Attavada, upadana. Okay? And where does this idea of a self arises? How does it arise? It arises from mistaking the five aggregates, or one among the five aggregates, as this unchanging, permanent essence. So And this so-called mistaken identity arise due to not seeing clearly, discerning clearly the true nature of the five aggregates as they are. In other words, due to not developing vipassana in order to discern clearly the nature of the five aggregates as they are. Okay? So the idea of a self arises from a mistaken identity of these five aggregates, or one among these five aggregates. Okay? So the idea of a self does not arise apart from the five aggregates. Okay? Although there are some people who like to argue that yes, you Buddhists say that the five aggregates is not self. Yes, but the self is apart from the five aggregates. There is something apart from the five aggregates. There is a self. And you look at the five aggregates, yes, it's not the self. It arises, it disappears, it's impermanent. The suffering is not self. But the self is something other than the five aggregates. That's what they argue. Okay? Yeah. But the Buddha refutes this. Yes, the Buddha says this idea also arises from mistaking five aggregates or one among five aggregates as a self. So this is the Khandha Samyutta, Samanupassana Sutta. So the Buddha says, Yehi kechi bhikkhave samanawa brahmanawa aneka vihitam attanam samanupassamana samanupassanti sabbe te panchupadana khande samanupassanti ete samva anyataram. So this means bhikkhave, bhikkhus, whoever it is, whether they are samana or brahmana, recluses or brahmins. Okay? So these two, samana and brahmana, these are the two groups of people who in the Buddha's time, they are the people who are actively involved in spiritual pursuits. Okay, the samana means the recluses. Okay, and brahmana means the brahmins. So Buddha is a samana. Okay, yeah, the samana are those people who have stepped out of the caste system. In those days, they have this caste system. The warrior caste, the Brahmin caste, and then the Vassa, so-called, what are they? Some kind of merchant class. So there are this caste system. So the samana are those who have stepped out of the caste system. That means they renounce the world. They renounce their worldly status, their lay householder status. They become monks, ascetics, recluses. And so they do this in order to pursue the spiritual path to enlightenment, liberation from suffering. So the Buddha is one of these samana. So therefore, this also makes the sangha of bhikkhus also. We are also classified under samana, recluses. And then there's the Brahmins. They also, some of them, not all of them, also actively pursuing the spiritual path. Okay? So Samanawa, Brahmanawa. Okay? So these are the people who usually have some views concerning the nature of existence, the nature of liberation, nature of suffering, and nature of liberation from suffering. The other people don't have such a time to pursue. The warrior are busy fighting war. The merchants are busy trading. The Samana, Brahmana, these are the people who are actively pursuing the spiritual path. So they have a lot of ideas, views. So many of them are philosophers. So yehi keji bhikkhave samanawa brahmanawa. Whoever they are, whether they are samanas or brahmanas, aneka vihitam attanam samanupasamana samanupasanti. So whoever they are, this brahmana or this samana or brahmana, who samanupasamana, you can say conceive of a self in various ways. So this samana and brahmana, they have many ideas about the nature of a self. So you can read about this in the Brahmajala Sutta, Dika Nikaya, the first discourse in the Dika Nikaya, the 62 views. So all the different kinds of the atta, the self. This samana and brahmana, they conceive of the self in various different ways. Aneka vihitam attanam samanupasamana. But in whichever way, regardless of which way that they conceive of a self, sabbe te panchupadana khande samanupasanti ete samva anyataram. All of them conceive of a self in the 5 aggregates subject to clinging, or one among these 5 aggregates. Okay? So according to the Buddha, the idea of a self arises not apart from the 5 aggregates. In whatever way you conceive of a self, they all do so, taking either the 5 aggregates together as a self or one among these 5 aggregates. Okay? So the Buddha must have said this based on his own experience. So he can read their minds. He can see how they conceive of the nature of the self. And he found that all of them do so with reference to the 5 aggregates. They conceive a self either by taking the 5 aggregates collectively as a self or one among 5 aggregates. So the idea of a self does not arise apart from the 5 aggregates. Okay? But if a person, their knowledge is not clear, so under the influence of delusion, of ignorance, then they do not see clearly. So when they conceive of this nature of a self, then they think, oh, it is apart from the 5 aggregates. They do not see that they are actually taking one of the 5 aggregates as the self. Okay? Because they don't have the method of vipassana in order to investigate, see clearly the nature of the 5 aggregates. So whoever conceive of a self, they all do so, taking the 5 aggregates or one among the 5 aggregates as a self. Okay? For example, there are some who take the Vijnana Khanda aggregate of consciousness, nature of knowing as a self. So knowing as a self, there is a knower. There is this knower. They identify. It's just a nature of knowing, but they identify it as a self. So there is a knower. And then I am the knower. I know. So this is identifying with the consciousness as a self. Okay? You see that, because you do not see that this nature of knowing, it changes moment to moment. So you take one object, that's knowing. You see, there's a knowing of the visible object. When you hear, there's the knowing of the sound. The knowing of the visible object and the knowing of the sound. So two different knowing, right? It's not the same knowing. Okay? Although the nature is similar, but it's two different phenomena, two different occurrence of that nature of knowing. Okay? So you do not see this, you think something is the same. That which know the visible object is the same as that which know the sound. So there's a permanent knower. And then you identify, I am the one who know. I know seeing, I know a sound. Some take the Vedana feeling as a self. So there's the feeler, that which feels. So I am the one who feels. I feel pain. I feel happy. So feeling as a self. Materiality also, rupa kanda. For example, you wake up every morning, you go to the toilet, you look in the mirror. What do you see? You say, oh, I see visible form, I see color. Okay, you are not identifying, but you don't do that, do you? You say, I see, that's me, right? Look at me, look at my hair, oh, so disheveled. So you identify that as you, right? So that is taking the rupa, material, physicality as a self. Some identify with the sankhara khandha, the aggregate of mental formations. So these are the mental activities. This is especially prominent when you are thinking. You do a lot of thinking. So this sankhara khandha, very active. So some like to think. They identify with the thinking. I think, therefore I am. René Descartes, a famous philosopher. I think, therefore I am. So he identified with this sankhara khandha. I am the thinker. I am the philosopher. So there are two aspects of attavada, the idea or doctrine of a self, or theory of a self. Okay? There are two aspects, and not just the atta, not just the self, but also attaniya, that which belongs to the self. Okay? So there's a self, and then there's that which belongs to the self. Okay? For example, say, my body, right? You look in the mirror, this is my body. Then that means you identify the body as belonging to the I, to the self. So my body, my mind, and my mind is so beautiful. My thoughts, I have such wonderful thoughts. Nobody can think such wonderful thoughts. So my thoughts, my pain, very painful. So So the self, atta and attanya, the self and that which belongs to the self. Okay, both are just two aspects of attavada. Okay, the doctrine of a self. So attanya is also comes under attavada, because when you say that which belongs to the self, it assumes the existence of a self, right? So that means it's also attavada. It also assumes the belief in a self. So it also comes under the belief or doctrine of the self. Now, concerning this attavada also, this doctrine of the self, generally, speaking very broadly, there are two schools of thoughts among those who hold this idea of a self. Okay? One is sasataditi, the view of eternalism. Okay? So that means they take the self, they view the self to be eternal. That means after death, it continues on. It's not destroyed. It goes on continuing eternally. Okay. So that's sasataditi, the view of eternalism. Okay. There are variety of this view of eternalism, but generally all of them view the self as eternal. So the self is not destroyed by death. Okay? It goes on eternally. Okay? Nowadays, this view are held usually by those of the theistic belief. Those who, what is a theistic belief? Theism, those who believe in the creator God. So that's called theistic belief, theism. Okay? So they hold that after death, the soul is either condemned to eternal hell or it goes to eternal heaven to be with God eternally. So this is sasataditi, the view of eternalism. Okay? Yeah. So Judaism, Christianity, Islam, even Hinduism also, they believe this. Okay? So they come under sasataditi. So there are variety of this view of eternalism, but they all generally held to this view that the soul, the self, is eternal. The other school of thoughts is uchedaditi, the view of annihilation. The self breaks up, disappear upon death. It doesn't survive death. After death, the self does not exist. Okay? That's uchetaditi, annihilation. Okay? Yeah. So this view, again, there's variety of it. So, but generally, they hold that the self is destroyed after death. Okay? Upon death, it's destroyed. So this view is usually held nowadays by materialists, those who hold that existence are basically material. So this body of ours, that is our existence. So that means they identify with rupa as the self. So once this physical body died, that's it. Because they identify with this physical body. So once this physical body, which they call the self, died, then that's it, it's destroyed, annihilated, no more. That is the materialist view. So there's also what we call scientific materialism. So, but scientists basically still, until today, still generally, they still do not accept the independent existence of consciousness. Right? So many scientists, for many scientists, they think that consciousness is simply a product of this body. So what is consciousness? All those, the configuration of all those this electrical pulses pulsing through the neural network through your brain. So this gives rise to consciousness. Okay? So consciousness is nothing but all this physical electrical pulses going on. So it means it's tied up with the body. So they identify that as your person. So it means when this body died, then that person also disappear. So that is also Ucheta Ditti. But regardless of whether they believe that the self is eternal or it is annihilated upon death, regardless of that, they all believe that that is the self. There's unchanging entity, personality, essence of existence that remain unchanged. So all of them really believe there is a self. Buddhists who have not experienced anatta also, although they have studied Buddha's teaching, anatta, anatta, anatta. But when it comes down to it, you give a knock on the head, or the atta come back. So, because their belief is still theoretical. So in the heart of their hearts, they still believe that there is a self. Okay? As long as you have not experienced anatta, it's very difficult to shake off this idea of anatta. You have not experienced it, it's very difficult to understand anatta. So you can say anatta, anatta. You tell somebody who never experienced anatta, how can it be anatta? Look, I'm here. I am here. Feel me, feel, I'm here. So it's very difficult to understand. That's why I have to practice vipassana. Once you have experienced up to the second insight, you have experienced Namarupa Paricheda and Pacaya Parigahanyana, then after that you don't have any more problem understanding, accepting, appreciating anatta. Okay? Because you would have experienced enough, not completely yet, but enough to understand nature anatta. Okay? Because the first insight you see that actually there's only nature, just mental, physical nature. Every moment of experience is just mental, physical nature. Where is the person? You cannot find. All you can see is just nature, just mental, physical nature. So, Pacaya Parigahanyana, you see this nature is condition, it arises from condition. It means it means once you see it's condition, it means it's momentary. So that means it does not exist before. Okay? Only when the condition is there, it arises. It means it does not exist before that. So it's not eternal. It's not permanent. So, of course, up to this point, it's not clear yet. Yeah. So, but it's enough for you to appreciate, understand clearly, accept the teaching of anatta. Okay. Yeah, but to really understand anatta, you must go beyond that. The samasana niyana. When you see, only when you really see the disappearance, then only you really see anatta. Disappearance means anicca. That which is anicca, yadanicca tam dukkam, then yam dukkam tam anattam. That which is impermanent is suffering. That which is suffering is non-self. Only when you really see impermanent, then only you see really, completely the nature of anatta. Okay? So, yeah. So otherwise, you are still, you are not experienced this various insight, then you still have hold on somehow in your heart, the existence, the idea of a self. Even if you are Buddhist, even if you have studied the sutta which tells you again and again anatta, but in the heart of your heart, you still cannot shake off this belief. Okay? And this belief can come about either consciously or unconsciously. Okay? Consciously means like you're a philosopher. All this various philosophy about the nature of a self, or you're some religious scholar. So consciously you hold on to certain philosophy, certain spiritual idea about the nature of a self. Okay? Or it can come about unconsciously due to cultural or societal or religious conditioning from young. So, for example, in our Chinese culture, we grow up being taught about the existence of a soul, right? From young, we are told there's a soul inside you. So, as a young kid, we all believe it. So, we are conditioned to believe it, right? So, it can be through such conditioning or religious conditioning. From young, you grow up in a religion, in a religious tradition that accept without question the existence of a soul. Then you take it for granted that this exists. Okay? So, or it can be a conditioning from your past life. So, in a past life, you hold on very strongly to this idea of a self. So, you carry forward this belief, this habit into your present life also. Yeah, so as we say, so this idea of a self arises due to one mistakenly taking the five aggregates or one among the five aggregates as a self. So, and this happened due to not discerning clearly nature of five aggregates as they really are. Okay, that means you do not develop vipassana insight. So without vipassana insight, without a tool of vipassana insight, we cannot penetrate clearly in the nature of five aggregates. You cannot discern clearly the various mental and physical nature that are present in each moment of experience, whether seeing, hearing, smelling, and so on. Okay? And so when you cannot discern clearly all these various constituent mental, physical nature that are the constituent of each moment of experience, okay? Then they all get mixed up together in the experience, mixed up together as one whole lump, one whole thing, okay, which we call gana, or compactness. So they all mixed together, appear as one whole compact thing. Okay, so whether it is the santati gana, you take the continuous series of mental, physical process as one whole compact thing, because you do not discern that your experience moment to moment is nothing but the series of mental, physical nature. So you cannot discern that clearly. So all of this mental, physical nature, you lump together as one continuous, unchanging thing. Or you take samuha gana, that means compactness of a mass. So it means all the constituent of each moment of experience. You cannot discern them clearly. For example, experience of seeing, you cannot discern clearly. This experience of seeing actually composed of various mental, physical nature. The eye sensitivity, the visible form, the eye consciousness, feeling, born of eye, the contact, eye contact, and the feeling born of eye contact. Okay, so you cannot discern this various nature, which are the constituent of the experience of seeing. You cannot discern them clearly as separate nature. So therefore, they all become lumped together as one compact whole. So samuha gana or kicha gana. You cannot discern clearly the various function of mental states. So the function of seeing, function of hearing, function of smelling, of tasting, of knowing, and so on. So therefore, you cannot differentiate as we said just now, the knowing of the visible form is one phenomenon. So one occurrence of knowing. The knowing of sound is another occurrence of knowing. Okay, so you take these two functions together as one thing. Okay, so that is this knowing, the same knowing that continuously know this various thing, because you cannot separate. That there is a consciousness that does the function of seeing. There's another consciousness that does the function of hearing. Another consciousness that does the function of smelling, and so on. So when you cannot see clearly, they all come together as one whole thing. The knower, compact together, cannot be resolved into this various function. And aramana gana, object, compactness of object. So when you see a person, that is one object. When you hear the person, there's another object. When you smell the person, that's another object. But you do not see that these are different objects. You think there's only one object. That is the person. So it appears as a compact thing. Okay, so they are all mixed up together. As it's called compactness. Gana. Okay, all these various mental, physical nature together with their functions and so on. They are all mixed up together. So whatever is mixed up in a compactness, as a compact state, you cannot discern clearly the momentary rise and fall. Right? So they are all mixed up together. So therefore, what is arising, what is disappearing, you cannot discern. Right? Because when they are all mixed up together, you cannot discern clearly the boundary that separates them. That means, what is the boundary? That means the arising and the disappearing. Right? That's the boundary between one nature and another. Right? So when you cannot discern the boundary between them, so then they appear unchanging. Right? You cannot discern the rise and fall. They appear unchanging, permanent. Then you identify this, that there is this permanent entity. You identify as a self. Okay? So in this way, this anatta lakkhana, this characteristic of anatta is concealed away. You do not resolving the experience, inability to resolve this experience, the compact experience, into its constituent. Okay. Yeah. So in order to discern the anatta lakkhana, therefore yogi must employ the method of noting, the method of satipatthana, noting, anupassana, note continuously, note precisely, note with ardent, energetic effort, with mindfulness, clear comprehension. Okay. So as you note continuously in this way, then you resolve the experience, you resolve the compact experience into its constituents. And then once you discern the constituent, then you discern clearly also that each of these mental, physical constituent, you discern them clearly, arising and disappearing. Again and again, every time you note, every mental or physical nature that arises, disappear. Okay? So you discern this again and again. Then you discern there's no permanent, unchanging core of experience. There's no permanent, everlasting essence in our experience. Everything arises, immediately disappear. So in order to discern nature of anatta, of having no core, no inner permanent core, yogi must note in such a way. You must develop the noting until it's so clear and sharp that you can cut through the experience and resolve it into all these various constituents. Okay? And then you see each of these constituents arising and disappearing. Then you really discern that there is no inner permanent core, lasting essence in the experience. Okay? So when do the yogi first begin to resolve the experience into the constituent? This takes place during the first insight, Namarupa Parichedanyana, the clear knowledge that delimits Nama and Rupa. Okay? So then you begin to discern each of the sabbhava nature, mental, physical nature, as separate nature. So they appear distinctly, separately. Okay? When you note tightness, tightness is one nature. The knowing of tightness is another nature. They are separate. Another tightness arises, and that is another nature, separate from the others. It's even separate from the first tightness. And the knowing of that tightness also again is another nature. Okay? So you're very clear, you demarcate between mental and physical nature. And so the experience starts to resolve. Okay? That's the beginning of the understanding into the true nature of anatta. Yogi discern, there's only mental, physical nature, just Dhamma, just nature. There's no person, no being, no self, no soul here. And this first insight is further enhanced by the second insight. When the yogi discern the conditioned nature of this mental physical nature, how they arise from condition. Okay, so as we said just now, when you discern that it arises from condition, that means it reveals that it is not permanent. That means it has not always been there. It only arises when there is a condition. When the suitable conditions are present, then they arise. Right? So that means before the conditions are there, that means they are not there. It means they have not always been there. So they are not everlasting. Yeah. So, but it is really beginning from the third insight, that when the yogi begin to discern the disappearance of this mental physical nature, then only you reveal clearly the disappearance and the impermanent nature of this mental physical nature. Okay, and then from seeing clearly moment to moment the disappearance, the impermanent nature of each mental physical nature, then you really discern clearly the nature of asaraka, no inner core. Okay, so really there's no inner core because everything just disappear, right? So there's just this empty nature, empty of a self, or what belongs to a self. This really becomes clear, only beginning from the third insight. Okay, so and this empty nature becomes clearer and clearer the deeper the insight is developed, and especially when it comes to Banganyana, it becomes really clear. In Banganyana, everything is just breaking up, dissolving. So disappearing. All the yogi design is just disappearing, not even arising. Okay, so when it disappears, what is left? Nothing. There's empty of a self, empty of that which belongs to a self. Okay, so this really becomes clear. Okay, so asaraka. So having no inner core, no inner permanent, everlasting core or essence. This is one nature of anatta. Okay, and this is based on discerning sankhata lakkhana, conditioned nature of arising and disappearing. Or you can say it is based on discerning nature of anicca, the continuous disappearance upon arising. Okay, so the yogi discern that each mental physical nature it arises only to disappear. It keeps disappearing. So when it disappears, then you really see there's no permanent essence, no permanent core. Okay? So this is based on nature anicca. Okay? So that's why I said anicca. Yes, sorry. Sorry, that is another thing. Okay, so asaraka is one nature of anatta. Okay, but there is actually another anatta lakkhana, another nature of anatta, another characteristic or signs of anatta. That is avasawatana dena anatta. Okay, so it is anatta in the sense of having no control, being not susceptible to control. So you're not able to exercise any control over it. There is another nature of anatta. So when you see that this mental, physical nature, this nama rupa that arise, or these five aggregates that arise, you cannot control it. You cannot exercise any control over it. So this is avasawatana dena anatta. Anatta in the sense of not being able to exercise control. That is also anatta lakkhana. So in this case, they talk about there's one kind of atta called Sami Atta. So Atta as a lot or a master. So I believe there's this self that is a master that can exercise control. Okay, so this is the idea of self as a master that exercise control. Is a master of itself. Okay, so it means they believe that it has absolute control over itself. So therefore, it can cause itself to be anything that it likes. Okay, so for example, it can be I want to be happy, so it can be happy. It can be eternally happy. So happily, they live happily ever after, as in the fairy tales. So they believe that this self is able to exercise such control, or they believe that this self is a master of the body. It can command the body to walk, to stand, to sit, to lie down, to eat, to drink, to talk, and so on. So they believe there's this self that exercise control over this body. The self say, walk, you walk. It says, stand, you stand. Sit, you sit. And so that's why the exercise, Satipatthana exercise, and Sampajanya Pabba, the section of clear comprehension. So Buddha asks us to contemplate with clear comprehension the various physical activities in our everyday life, right? So this instruction is in order to expose the fallacy of this Sami-atta, this self that control the body. So when a yogi note properly, clearly all these various physical activities, he said that you can see clearly there is no self that is controlling this body. There's just intention, a series of intention giving rise to series of physical movements. Like when you stretch your arm, so there's just a series of intention or impulsion. There's impulsion to stretch, and then the stretching movement occurs. Then another impulsion, then another stretching, another impulsion, another stretching. So series of intention giving rise to series of movement. And each of this intention or impulsion and each of this movement, they arise right there and disappear right there. So nothing survives from one moment to another. So where is the self? Where is the self? That permanent self that is controlling all this, that's at the back of all this movement. You cannot find it. All you find is just series of impermanent intention and impermanent physical movement. Okay, that means just you can see only the mental physical process. So apart from this mental physical process going on, there's nothing else. No permanent self behind it that is controlling it. In the Anatta Lakkhana Sutta also, the Buddha refute this Sami-atta, this self as a controller, a master controller. So in the Sutta, the Buddha analyzed the 5 aggregates. He take each of the 5 aggregates, and then he reasoned why these aggregates is not the self. For example, taking the rupa, materiality. So Buddha says, because this rupa is not the self, rupam anatta. Okay? So for if rupa were the self, this materiality were the self, then rupa will not lead to affliction. And it would be possible to say of your rupa, let my rupa be thus, let my rupa not be thus. Right? So if the rupa were the self, then your physical body will not fall sick. You will not have pain. Mosquito can sting you. You will not feel any itchiness. Right? You can control it. Right? You're supposed to be able to control if it was the self. Right? So, and it would be possible if it is a self. It would be possible to say, let me be handsome, well-built, good-looking. But can you control that? Let my body not age, not die. Can you control that? You cannot, right? So therefore the Buddha says, but because rupa is not self, so therefore rupa leads to affliction. And it is not possible to say of this rupa, let my rupa be thus, let my rupa not be thus. So this is refuting this sami atta, this atta as a master controller. Yogi can experience this clearly also in your practice. For example, during your sitting, you sit down, you say, let there be no pain. Can you? How nice, right? But you cannot do that. So you sit down, maybe at first no pain, but maybe after 10-15 minutes, then some discomfort start to come. Then after another 5-10 minutes, start to become more intense. Then become more and more intense. After that, the pain comes. Then it becomes excruciating. Right? Can you control? So you cannot control. Right? Unless you conceal it, you run away, you shift. But you don't shift. You let nature take its course. Then that's the nature of the body. Can you control nature? You cannot control. Sometimes you sit down, you expect pain to arise. Sure, this sitting sure have pain. Maybe you have some injury, so you sit down expecting pain to come. But then no pain come. So again, you cannot control. Because the condition at that time does not give rise to pain, so it doesn't come. You see? But when the condition gives rise to pain, no matter what you do, the pain will come. Right? So it doesn't obey you. It obeys the law of conditionality. You can wish what you want. It doesn't obey your wish. So it shows there's no control over the body. Right? Sometimes yogi wants the body to be straight. But somehow when you sit, it starts to slant, it starts to slouch. You straighten it again, it slouch. Right? Sometimes that sensation in the body also. So difficult sensation, twitching, heat, pressure, stiffness, tightness, hardness. It arises. When the condition is there, they arise. You cannot say, I don't want them to arise. The condition is there, they will arise. So you cannot control. Walking meditation, sometimes yogi reports, I want it to move this way, but then somehow it go the other way. Right? And sometimes you feel that there's something that's moving. It's as if the foot is moving by itself. So Vedana you cannot control. Pain you cannot control. It arises, the condition is there, it arises. Okay, so Sankhara also, mental formation, all the thinking, or those who hold thinking as a self. I think, therefore I am. So they think that I am the master of my thoughts. I can think whatever I like, right? If I don't want to think also, I can stop thinking. Yeah, there's some people like that. Okay, so the other day one yogi told me about the husband. My husband told me yes, what I call this functional thinking. So that means he only think when there is a reason to think. Functional thinking. When there's no reason to think, I don't think. So I tell her, you go and ask your husband to meditate. When you meditate, you think you can control your thoughts. So you can't meditate. So keep your mind on the object. Can you keep your mind on the object? As soon as you try that, you find that the mind doesn't stay with the objects. It keeps flitting around uncontrollably, thinking of one thing after another, right? So then you start to realize you are not the master of your thought. So your thought has a life of its own. It doesn't obey you, right? So Sankhara Kanda also, not self. Consciousness also, Vijnana Kanda. So whatever object arises, knowing will occur. As soon as there's a condition, you cannot say that I don't want to experience this object. The consciousness will arise to experience it. Like seeing, when there's a condition, there's a visible object, you have the eye sensitivity is in good order, you're not blind or no cataract, and there's light, and you're paying attention. As soon as this condition is there, the object arises, the seeing consciousness will arise. You cannot say, I don't want to see. It will arise, you have to see. You have no say over it. Right? So it doesn't obey you, it obeys the condition. You cannot say, I do not want to know this unpleasant object. I only want to know pleasant object. Right? So you cannot control consciousness. So to discern this nature anatta of avassavatana, not being able to exercise control. So first, yogi has to start again is sabhava lakkhana, discerning clearly each mental, physical nature separately. And then after that, sankhata lakkhana, how each of this nature arises and disappear. And then from there, anicca lakkhana, you see the disappearance. Every moment arise only to disappear, arise again to disappear. You see anicca lakkhana, impermanent nature. And then after that, dukkha lakkhana, you see this arising and continuous arising and disappearing as oppressive, unbearable. So dukkha lakkhana. See? And then you find that this unbearable nature, this oppressive nature, you cannot stop it, even if you want to. You see this never-ending arising, disappearing again and again, very oppressive. You want it, this whole process to stop, but it does not stop just because you wish it to stop. It does not obey your wish, right? So the yogi can only sit by helplessly and then experience the nature of dukkha. You cannot do anything about it. The only thing you can do about it is to continue noting, to deepen the insight into the nature of dukkha. That's the only thing you can do. So you're helpless in the face of dukkha. You cannot do anything about it. You cannot control it, right? So you cannot stop it as you wish. It just goes on and on because the condition that sustain this process, this avijja, tanha, upadana, that process, the factor that sustain the cycle of dependent origination. So because it's there, so this process of nama rupa continue indefinitely, on and on and on it goes. Okay? And as it goes on and on, every moment arising and disappearing, the process of suffering goes on continuously, from one existence to another. Samsara rolls on. So you cannot stop it. You can only sit by and watch. So you have the first class ticket to watch this show of samsara, which is suffering. So, so this nature of anatta is based on discerning dukkha, having no control over the process of dukkha. So that's why it's called in the Girimananda Sutta, dukkhe anatta sanya, perception of anatta, non-self, in dukkha. So there's anicca sanya, perception of impermanence. Then there is anicca dukkha sanya, perception of dukkha, suffering in impermanence. So you discern the oppressive nature in the continuous arising and disappearance. Okay? And then there's dukkhe anatta sanya, perception of non-self in suffering. Okay? So you cannot control this process of suffering. You cannot stop it as you. So this insight into anatta or anatta jnana, it is an experience. Again, it is an experience. Experience of anatta lakkhana. Okay? Experience of the nature of having no inner permanent core, that there's just dhammas, just mental physical nature that continuously disappear. Or the experience of this mental physical process not being susceptible to any control. Okay? So discerning this nature of anatta, discerning clearly this nature of anatta, that is the anatta jnana. So it's an experience, it's a clear experience of the nature of anatta. Okay? It comes about by noting, not by thinking. You can think all you want, or this various theory of anatta, or anatta is like this, anatta is like this. So, but as long as you haven't experienced it, it's not the true insight into anatta. Okay, so insight into anatta comes about by noting, by experiencing clearly each experience as consisting of just momentary mental physical nature, and also experiencing the inability to control this process of nama rupa. Okay? And in actual experience, the yogis will experience the nature of anatta in different ways. Okay? So in the Patisambhida Magga, they explain 5 different ways. Okay, so I'll just read to you. I think this is from Mahasi Sayadaw himself. Okay, so here's his translation. So it says, one sees the conditioned phenomena, that means the nama rupa, as just mere dhammas, just mere mental physical nature that are devoid of a self, anattato. Right? So that means there's no self that you are able to exercise control over. that you're able to own, to feel, to give orders, to behave according to one's will. No self that is everlasting or that is the agent of going, seeing, and so on. Okay, so here the yogis simply see it as outright anatta. So that means the two asaraka and avasawatana. So that means no inner permanent core, as well as not being able to exercise control over it. Okay. And then the second one is one sees the conditioned phenomena as stranger or outsider, parato, because this phenomena do not happen according to one's will, and because one is unable to order them, not to age, not to die. Okay? So when you meet a stranger, you ask them to do things for you. Who are you? I do not know you. So the mental physical phenomena, they are like this. They do not obey you. So, or the third one sees conditioned phenomena as mere dhammas, devoid of a personal identity that is enduring, satisfying, or beautiful. And this is more for people who have a strong attachment to their personality, to their person. So once they experience anatta, that personality disappears. And then they say, oh, it's devoid of this personal identity. Then the fourth one sees conditioned phenomena as mere dhammas that are insubstantial, useless, and empty. So it's insubstantial. The moment it arises, it disappears. So it's like nothing there, insubstantial. There's nothing substantial there that you can hold on to, that you can use. So it's empty. Tuccato. Then the fifth one sees conditioned phenomena as mere dhammas that are empty of a self. Sunyato, empty of a self. So a long explanation here is that here atta, self, means an entity that is the owner of the body, permanently residing in the body, the agent of going, seeing, and so on, the agent who feels pleasant and unpleasant feelings, able to give any orders, and able to exercise mastery. Such an entity, which is a product of one's speculation, belief, or obsession, may be called being, soul, ego, or self. And so it does not really exist. Okay? So it's merely a product of speculation, belief, or obsession. So that's why you don't say you are attached to a self. Rather, you are attached to the idea of a self. Then continue. It says the Visuddhimagga mentions three additional aspects of insight into non-self. One sees that conditioned phenomena are merely dhammas, merely physical or mental nature, that have no owner. Asamikato. That means no master. So one sees that conditioned phenomena are merely dhammas that are not under anyone's control. Nobody control it. Okay? So, and then the third one sees that conditioned phenomena are merely dhammas that are not able to exercise mastery. Okay? So, yeah, it's actually seeing the same thing from slightly different aspects. Okay. So, yeah. So when yogis experience nature anatta, they experience it in these various ways. Okay. So it's an experience, okay, not something that you think about. You can think all you want about anatta, but you still have atta. Okay. So to dispel the notion of anatta, you need to experience clearly the true nature of the five aggregates. Okay, that means you need to practice vipassana meditation. Okay, so we stop here today. Imaya Dhammanu Dhamma Patipatiya Buddham Pujemi. Imaya Dhammanu Dhamma Patipatiya Dhammam Pujemi. Imaya Dhammanu Dhamma Patipatiya Sangham Pujemi. Imaya Dhammanu Dhamma Patipatiya Mata Pitunam Pujemi. Imaya Dhammanu Dhamma Patipatiya Acariyanam Pujemi. Ada imaya Patipadaya Jara Maranamha Parimocesami. Idame punyam Asawakaya Waham Hodu. Idame punyam Nibbanasa Pajayo Hodu. Idame silam Magabhalanyanasa Pajayo Hodu. Imam no punya bhagam Sabbasadanam Dema. Imam no punya bhagam Sabbasadanam Dema. Imam no punya bhagam Sabbasadanam Dema. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So may all of you be well, happy and peaceful always. May you all be healthy, be strong, be safe always. May you all be able to continuously practice the Dhamma without any obstacle, without any hindrances. May your practice of the Dhamma always be smooth, free from trouble. And may you all be able to soon experience the unconditioned peace of Nibbana through your practice of the Dhamma.